All right. Was everyone able to select their language? Yes. All right. Well, hi, everybody. Thanks for being here today. Happy March. I thought it might be fun to kick us off. If you could put your name in the chat and also which organization you're with, and then also what month it starts to feel like spring where you live. I was just thinking about that today. Maybe I'm one of the fools of Fool's Spring, but today feels like, oh, summer's coming. So, yeah, I know we all live in different parts of the state, and it probably still feels very much like winter in some places. So, yeah, so enter your name, your organization, and the month that it starts to feel like spring for you where you live. And we will go ahead and get started. So, yeah, this is going to be a pretty informal meeting. As you know, I don't have an agenda here, but I wanted to give a status update on where CDA is and what we've been up to, and how things are going with round one awardees. I also want to acknowledge that round two closes in less than a week. So talk about any urgent last minute questions you've got about that. And I also thought it might be a good opportunity because we've got some newer contractors, and they'll have a lot of questions that might be like on the more basic side. I thought it might be fun for older contractors to try to answer their questions if yeah, if that works for you guys. So definitely queue up some questions. Most of this meeting today will be about yeah, last minute things you want to talk about before round two closes, and anything else you've got questions about for the remainder of this contract. So any questions about our plan for today? Okay. Okay. So update from CDA. But mostly Adonai has been working really hard on kind of moving everybody along through the process. We had 42 awardees. There's many steps that need to happen before folks get paid. So we talked a lot about that in previous meetings. We went through that attestation that awardees, would be asked to sign. And then, we talked about the meetings that we set up with every single awardee so that they could ask us questions about that attestation, what would be expected of them after they're paid, and address any concerns, timeline, whatever. So we have met with all but, what is it, Adonai, 2 or 3 awardees at this point? 3. Okay. So we've been busy with that. And let's see. Sorry, I'm just letting everyone into this waiting room here. And we have made payments to a handful of awardees. There are a few folks who are, on the tail end of things, still getting their paperwork in. We've had a lot of back and forth with awardees who want to make adjustments to, what their budget is, what their timeline is. And we're fortunate to be in a position where we can work with folks there. So that's what we've been up to with round one awardees. We're learning a lot about how to streamline the process and make it a little more simpler for round two. And as you know, this is my first time and Adonai's first time going through this payment process at CDA. So we've had a lot to learn about how to make things easier on our county department and yeah, make it so that everything happens really smoothly. So that's our hope for round two. Yeah, timeline for round two, as we discussed, it's coming up quick. Yeah, the reviewers are ready to read. They're very excited. I think, yeah, we're hopeful for, yeah, I mean, we're hopeful for a lot of applications, of course, but we're hopeful that there is more clarity in what we're asking, and the kinds of proposals that we get will be really focused. And that will be in large part thanks to all of you and all of your work supporting businesses out there as they decide whether to take advantage of this opportunity or, yeah, say this isn't for me. So lots of work here with the grant, but we are doing our best to kind of wrap up the grant, put a bow on it, before doing a focused launch of the tax credit and the consortium. And one of the big reasons for that is we want to reduce confusion, because the tax credit and the consortium are, or sorry, the tax credit and the grant are so similar, with some really key, huge differences. So because it's very pressing to get the funds out the door for the grant, we're really focusing on a big push for that, and starting building up the materials and the application for the tax credit. So yeah, focusing a lot on just with all of you, making sure you're very clear on the grant piece, focusing your efforts on the grant, but do know that there's more coming for this tax credit. And for those of you who are starting this work now, which seems a little unideal, you know, with the grant closing soon, there will be a lot of outreach work that we are hoping you can help us do for the tax credit. So just want to address that. And then, of course, the consortium is another big element of this work. And again, it's still in development, but we're hoping to launch the first big consortium meeting with all awardees and any other businesses who are interested in being part of that consortium around May. That's our target date for the first consortium meeting. So there will be a lot of discussion about that, but again, focusing more on our grant here. So that's sort of, yeah, what we've been cooking up here over at CDA. I also did want to mention that we haven't heard back yet from Healthy Food Financing Initiative, which you all may remember is the organization that launched a grant that, if we win it, would continue our partnership. So we were told that we would not hear back any sooner than February. So I'm kind of thinking any day now. So yeah, keep an eye out for an email from me with word on yes or no. If no, you know, that will be a big bummer. We'll just sort of honor the end date that we have in the contracts that all of you guys signed. But if yes, we'll have some conversations about, you know, what is the total amount we were awarded? What will that mean for your organization staying on? And yeah, what can we plan for in continuing this work, hopefully for 3 years down the road, so we can have some continuity doing outreach and technical assistance for the tax credit. So yeah, just what to expect as an outreach and TA partner in the coming year. So this week, of course, we want to just all efforts focused on supporting those grantees, or sorry, applicants as they're putting their final touches on their round 2 applications. And then after the 11th, which is when round 2 closes, then we can kind of shift into more big picture planning for the rest of the year. So, outreach and TA providers can expect to be supporting awardees as they are submitting all of their verification and their receipts and proof of payment all throughout the rest of the year. We'll definitely be talking about how we can plug in your help so we can avoid an audit or a clawback with these awardees who, submitted a great application, were awarded, but need a little bit more support meeting that those requirements, proving that they spent the money in the right way. So that's something you can expect as an outreach and TA provider. And then, of course, we'll be focusing after the grant is over on what the tax credit is, how to take advantage of it, and then how to think about providing outreach and technical assistance for that. And then, through the end of the contract, talking about how to plug in with the consortium. So, hopefully that helps to give you all a lay of the land. I know for everybody here, we had a rushed start, right? We, in a perfect world, we would have had a year of training before doing outreach for this grant. But unfortunately, with our tight timeline and the hard deadline on when we need to get these funds out the door, nobody really had that luxury. So you guys all were drinking from the fire hose, flying the plane as you were building it. So thank you all for just jumping right on board for this outreach for the grant, and know that we can, step back a little bit after the grant is done to think about how we want to strategize outreach for, for the tax credit. Any questions about that timeline or anything I just mentioned at all?
I'm curious if the contract that we initially got into to do the TA for this grant is the same for the tax credit, or if that's going to be a separate contract.
So technically, Jay, it's a little different, and we can talk one-on-one about that. But ideally, we would get this other grant where we could kind of build in that tax credit piece and put that in writing. But does that help?
I mean, I just wonder if we're expected to continue the work based on the contract we had, or if because I kind of thought it was like going to be over in May, and then we would, I don't know, not renegotiate, but like have a different set of parameters and a different budget to work off of.
So your contract technically goes till September, and it spells out, outreach and TA for the grant. So, we knew, and I need to look at yours specifically, but everybody's end date for their contract is a little different. I think newer folks end in December, but at some point in the end of 2024, fall, winter of 2024, all of our current contracts will end. So, and right, each contract was just slightly different. So if you want to talk one-on-one about your contract, we can definitely set up a time to do that. Any other questions? Okay. Well, I'm gonna open this up to any general questions about, supporting folks applying for the grant. This is a great time for newer outreach and TA contractors to ask sort of more basic questions. You should feel that no question is too basic to ask here. And then, I'll pitch it to some of the more seasoned veterans and see if they want to take those questions. But yeah, this time is yours to ask me and Adam and I anything you're concerned about, curious about, need support with.
I will jump in. So, hi, my name is Penelope. I'm with Valley Food Partnership. We're over on the Western Slope. And a question that has come up, so we have a number of different subcontractors serving the Montrose Delta Mesa County region. And a question has come up, and it since has kind of subsided a little, and everyone's figuring it out for themselves. But I think it's still, I'd love to still hear what this group has to say. I'm kind of like, what's that stop point on technical assistance and like handling that nuance? Or is there no stop point? I mean, that's bold to say, but still, maybe that's the truth. And we've just discussed as a group kind of how like the nuances of working with that and the individuals in front of you and meeting them where they're at and how that will look different for everyone. But I still was just curious to hear from the group, any insights or ahas around that?
That's a great question, Penelope. And something that we have left up to all of you. I think it's up to all of you, depending on how much time, this contract is really paying for each of you to spend on this. But I think I would let someone else answer this because I've seen a lot of really hands-on TA that's been really important and kind of a game changer for those businesses submitting applications. I don't know if anyone wants to jump in.
Yeah, I'll jump in a little bit because I learned a lot in round one that you really do need to set a boundary for yourself and as well as the applicant, that and it really depends, I think, on their ability and capabilities for grant writing. How familiar are they with just grant writing? The less familiar, the more I felt it was appropriate to really dig in more and provide more support. And then, so it's so subjective, right? And I think that is just a great question, Penelope, because it is something I've struggled with trying to balance my own time, what I'm available with and the need that I see. So yeah, I'd be interested to hear other people's experience around setting those boundaries too.
Thanks, Eileen. Lauren, you want to jump in?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, similar to Eileen, this is definitely something that we have ongoing conversations about, and I think keep learning more and more after each round of these grant applications. And yeah, similar to what Eileen was saying, if folks that we are engaging with have little to no grant writing experience and have very limited resources to tap into to write a grant application, then we provide like more intensive technical assistance. And we've even gone so far as to like sit down with people for hours and like type out their grant application for them. And then the one service that we offer to like everyone in our sort of region is a second set of eyes on their application and budget before they submit it. And usually that takes about 20 minutes and it's super high level. And I just read through and I flag anything that they're saying that could make them like ineligible by accident. Or if there's like inconsistencies between their budget and application, I see that all the time. Or if they're using certain language that doesn't match with the language that this grant wants to hear. So that's something that I have found really, really, really helpful for people in our region, is that like once over before people submit their applications.
Thanks, Lauren. I don't want to call people out, but Deo, I know, has been doing a lot of really hands-on work. So I don't know if you have anything to share there.
Yo estuve ayudando a las personas por el teléfono a contestar las preguntas la mayoría del tiempo. No tuve tiempo de leer cada una de las solicitudes que enviaron, pero sí estuve en el teléfono dándole ideas de qué era lo que tenía que decir. No tengo experiencia en escribir grants, pero tengo cierta idea de cómo contar una historia para que esa, las necesidades y las, todos los requisitos que ellos necesitan tener para, para poder explicar la situación y cómo beneficiaría a la comunidad y a ellos mismos.
Thanks, Deo. And you know, we've seen a wide range of, you know, I guess Ad and I am thinking about the one awardee who we've been working with, who's just sort of less familiar with using email. So it's, you know, is sending communication only in the subject line, not in the email body. And, you know, just folks needing help scanning things. These are not reasons why we don't want to award someone, right? In some cases, these are the best, most fitting businesses to receive the award. So I think, this is the nuance of this work, is how do you kind of dole out your time and try to understand who you're going to spend time helping, you know, learn how to scan a page and send it via email versus, you know, who you're just going to read their finished draft and give them a few pointers. But this is why we have you all. I mean, think about where we would be without you. So, Lucy.
Sí, buenos días. Algo que yo estuve mirando dentro de la comunidad a la que yo asistí, que en este caso es la comunidad hispana, las tiendas de la esquina, de regularmente personas latinas, y es el miedo que ellos tienen para aplicar para estas subvenciones, porque siempre piensan que no es algo creíble. En eso uno trabaja mucho para poderse ganar la confianza de ellos, para poderles explicar realmente. Siempre tienen mucho miedo de poner su información. Entonces, vi eso y ojalá y pudiéramos tener otra subvención, porque sí, después de tanto estar platicando con ellos, sí hay personas interesadas en continuar, pero igual para eso necesita uno más tiempo para poder estar trabajando con ellos, porque no es una visita ni dos, es muchas visitas, es estarles explicando pregunta por pregunta, porque eso fue lo que hice yo, sentarme con ellos y explicarles pregunta por pregunta qué necesitaban, cómo hacerlo, cómo hablar de eso, porque inclusive ni siquiera hay contexto de cómo explicar por qué está mi tienda aquí, por qué esto es necesario para mí. Entonces, sí estoy muy agradecida con este programa y, como les digo, ojalá y se abriera una tercera ronda, porque creo que ha sido de mucho beneficio, y de mis personas con las que he estado trabajando apenas estamos aplicando, vamos a aplicar como 6, 7 aplicaciones, pero sí hay más personas interesadas, y lo malo es la línea del tiempo, que ya no tenemos tiempo, pero gracias por la oportunidad.
Yeah, Lucy's bringing up a lot of points. You know, it's like when it's trust building, you can't just do that over the phone, 20-minute call. It's yeah, a multiple year-long process. So, I hate that we don't have more time for this. But the hope is that, the stars align so we get some more funding to keep you all for a few more years and we can continue this, work and build off the trust that you've started to create and hopefully have these businesses take advantage of the tax credit, which isn't the same as a grant, as we've said, but is quite a bit of money and a really good opportunity for these businesses buying new pieces of equipment. So that's our hope right now. But I think Penelope, yeah, it's definitely hard to decide. And I think if I can speak for all of our outreach and TA providers, it's been getting thrown in and just starting the work right away. It's been something that everybody's had to navigate. Do I spend all my time with someone who is maybe not the best fit for this grant, but's really wanting a lot of my help? Or do I spend more time doing some outreach, trust building with a business that we don't have a relationship yet with and does need more help with some of these more kind of like, basic administrative tasks. But it will likely be a better fit for the grant. So thanks to everyone who shared their perspectives from the work they've been doing over the past 6-7 months. Penelope, do you have anything you want to put a finer point on or clarify?
No, that I just really appreciated hearing kind of the depth of experiences because I think in our region and maybe a lot of others, we have that wide breadth between very, very rural, which also, as Susan mentioned, has some trust issues to the Hispanic outreach, which we're also seeing that in to, all of it. So it really was helpful to hear what everyone said. I think it is reflective also that our group is on par and kind of triaging, for lack of a better word, different situations appropriately. And so thanks for everyone's input. That was helpful.
Thanks for the question. Anybody else want to pitch a question to the group?
I just got an application and what I did was I encouraged the applicant to write, here's the questions, you fill this out and then send it to me and let me like review it. Anyway, I just got this this budget and there are about 25 different line items on here. And I'm just wondering how you guys are gonna vet that. I mean, and a lot of it's really relevant. I mean, it's all really relevant. But I'm just wondering if this needs to be more, it's all over the places. It's, this is a farm that's looking for rototillers and pumps and a shed and packaging material as well as promotional material. And so since it's kind of all over the place, I'm just curious, is that gonna be distracting and should I have them narrow it down? Okay.
Jay, I wouldn't worry too much about that. I'm just laughing because Adonai has been taking the budgets and putting them into the award letter and the attestation. And we really appreciate a lot of detail in the budgets, right? It demonstrates that they've got a clear idea of what they're doing. They've thought about a lot of the detail of it. And that bodes well in the review process. Even if they are, one thing for this goal, one thing for that goal. But what we try to do for the awardee is put things in buckets a little bit more and generalize it, because they're going to need to submit proof of purchase, and it may not it's a little bit easier to have some more flexibility. So grouping things more. And Adonai has had some budgets that have way more than 25 line items that he's, kind of groomed together. So Jay, hopefully that kind of illustrates the process here of like, we like to see the detail, even if it's disparate. It really has a lot more to do with what's their story. Like Dale was saying, how are they telling the story? How are they kind of justifying that they need all of these things? Is it all fitting in this, cohesive theme? And then, Adonai, you want to?
Yeah, but we also had some folks that were like, oh my God, is that going to be the proof of payment? So I do have to keep all those receipts and then submit it. And then we were like, yes, you will have to. Oh, never mind. I think I'll just use it for another smaller things. And I don't want to keep those receipts for like 6 months and being tracking them and scanning them. And yeah, it's going to be a burden for everyone, but it's possible. Yeah.
Yeah. And once we have that FaceTime with them and talk about like, okay, this is what it's actually going to look like when we pay you and when you buy everything, and then you send the proof of payment back, they start to realize like, oh, maybe I don't need to include this like $49, basket. So I think, Jay, to answer your question, you don't need to encourage them to streamline. They may want to just do that anyway if they are awarded, but we've definitely seen.
And I think what I'm hearing, it's like, I want to just cover with this applicant that like, I mean, it's really well organized. I'm really impressed with the detail here, but that like, you're going to have to report on every one of these items if you're funded for this, and just like, do they have the capacity to keep up with all of these receipts and reporting? And that's one of the things I've been really concerned about for some of these people that do want this, is like, there is a bunch of administrative work involved if you get it. I mean, I guess depending on what, if it's one piece of equipment, it's not that big of a deal, but this is a bunch of stuff. So, okay, that's really good. And I mean, I think this is all relevant. So I just wondered, because I hadn't seen somebody get all over the place like this, but it makes sense. So, all right, thanks.
And sometimes it's helpful, like sometimes the narrative in the application is like, hey, here's our problem. Not only can we not produce enough, but we also like, nobody knows about us. We don't have enough visibility. And so if they say that in their application, but then their budget is only asking for the equipment, the reviewers are still left wondering like, okay, well, what about the visibility piece? Is this going to be a good investment, right? Helping you produce with this hanging question of like, how will you increase your visibility? So in a lot of ways, it's good to address with the budget or with the proposal request the barriers that we ask about in a previous question, or at least mention like, this is what we're planning to do. Maybe we're not asking from this grant, but these are our plans to increase our visibility with a different grant or with our own funds or whatever. So thanks for asking that, Jay. Anyone else want to jump in on that? I don't know, other folks that have been reading budgets and helping applicants maybe find their story or narrow their focus or expand their focus. Okay. Thanks again for that question, Jay. Any other questions?
I have a question. I think we've all probably in this work been realizing how big of a need there is out there, both for retailers and farmers. And just wondering in other regions, how are people or have people been sort of systematically connecting applicants with other resources? Or what are your thoughts on that for those that maybe aren't successful or just looking for more and additional support?
Great question.
Part of what we do is we have a lot of resources compiled online and in a few booklets for the local food system here. So I very much am trying to stack functions and talk about all the other grants and opportunities. And, you know, it's amazing. People come to us for, you know, a question here or there, and like, they don't know about CSU Extension. They don't know about Small Business Development Center. So I'm really trying to connect them to, yeah, the different resources that are out there beyond this and beyond, yeah, what we actually offer. And I'm actually working on making a position at, you know, the Local Foods Coalition specifically to be this like resource ambassador that knows about all of that stuff, because might as well. I mean, people need so many resources, right? And so like it's like not even worth it to talk to them about one thing when there's all this other stuff out there.
Yeah, that's so cool, Jay, that you have that. And I mean, right, this is ideally, this program is just one thing in your repertoire of programs that you know about that you can connect folks to. So yeah, Jay, I wish we had a resource ambassador at CDA. Marion, go ahead. You're on mute though.
Sorry about that. I just want to echo what was just said and add that rather than pointing them to other resources, because I'm not really that familiar with them, what I have been very effectively doing and hope to continue no matter what, and that is connecting farmers with my local retailers. In Boulder County, we have a number of vegetable farmers, as you might guess, and they have a pretty good market, but they have very little access, if any, to low income, even though there are a lot of low income, low access people in Boulder County and Broomfield County. So I have been successful in getting some farmers to talk directly to retailers and develop a relationship, and to a person. And I hope to have that in a follow-up survey that we do of how our work, you know, the technical assistance, how did that help you and or hinder you? And to a person, they have all said to me, I wish I had somebody like you for every grant I've ever tried to have, which I think is a testimony to how important this is, probably for every granting process, not just this one. Yeah. To make those connections, because people who are small businesses never have time to do all the things they need to do for outreach.
Thanks, Marion. That's such a good answer to this question.
I wanna add to what Marion and Deo have also done, Mickey, because they've been so good at this, is not only connecting stores and farmers, but they've been talking to decision makers throughout the city, county, and state. And so they've been meeting with commissioners telling them about this. They've been meeting with the socioeconomic departments of the cities. And then, I mean, Marion just talked to Governor Polis. And so she
and Kay Greenberg.
Yeah.
And I just want to interject right here. I actually have quotes in this presentation I'm doing from both the governor and Kate Greenberg at last week's Ag Conference, which is a yearly event. And both of them spoke of this opportunity, this grant process, as a highlight of what they're doing in ag, which to me is amazing. And I have those quotes because I was there and recorded them. And I'm going to share them with you too, Mickey, because, you know, we need them to know how important it is that they're doing. And what we've learned so that they actually, next time ask for money, they do it including the kinds of things we pointed out to them.
That's such a helpful reminder here. I think, yeah, I know that I actually remember one of our first meetings, the icebreaker question was, how's everybody feeling? And everybody was feeling really frantic and stressed out and confused. And I think some of those feelings may have persisted for a few months. And, you know, I apologize for bringing you into this work that was so, yeah, just a lot all at once. But I think Marian and Erica, this is, it's really helpful to remember that, you know, this is one of the first of its kind, right? And there are some big players like the governor who are really, really, really intrigued and excited about the work that all of you are doing, and really interested to see the outcomes of that work. So thanks for bringing that up. And I hope you all remember that you're all part of something that's pretty novel, and pretty important. So hopefully you keep that top of mind. Brandy, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. I was very excited on behalf of Rocky Mountain SARE Empowerment Center that we had this opportunity to be able to work with small retailers and small farmers across the state. We do work with business incubators. So we work with small business and LLCs, nonprofits, food entrepreneurs, and so forth. And it's important that we, now that we are working with them, that we reach out to like local farmers markets and trying to get them pushing their product through there as an avenue coming up this summer. And with the farmers markets, we want to also push the fact that they could get SNAP qualified or, WIC or double up food bucks. This will be multiple streams of revenue for them. And I understand, whoa, that sounds like so much more work. How are we going to do it? You could connect them with Nourish Colorado. And Nourish Colorado actually has an employee on staff that will be able to walk them through that process. And so that is just got to change the game if we refer more people for that SNAP qualification. And so a lot of these different initiatives that we're doing, I like chaos all the time. I came from early childhood, right? So the kids were just chaos every day. But pilot programs, you really get to set the standard and the bar for, this upcoming work that we are going to continue to do with each other. And this is a good opportunity for us all to interact with our inner city government to be able to further explore the opportunity for these entrepreneurs to get business licensed. I know I work with entrepreneurs every day that have an idea, but they are not business licensed. They are not business insured. They do not have a commissary food kitchen, but they are making cookies and salsas from home with the cottage food. And then to even get to that next step, they have to be food manager certified. So where are they got to get that from, or food retail and so forth. So it's a very good opportunity for us, and hopefully we're all able to continue this work for the next few years, because ground level, you guys are having huge impact.
Thanks, Brandy. Yeah, really great responses. Anybody else have any thoughts on that question Anjali had about systemic connection to resources, or kind of doing that in a strategic way? Any other thoughts from other groups? Warren, you have any wisdom over there? Sorry to call you out.
No, I think I agree with what everyone else has said. Capital stacking is such a great opportunity that aligns with the technical assistance and outreach work in this program. And yeah, I'm grateful that the CDA was able to identify so many different organizations around the state that do take that food systems approach to be able to like connect businesses with other resources. And like one concrete example that came up after the first round in our region was this need for a lot of farmers to get SNAP certified. A lot of farmers wanted to apply in the first round and did apply in the first round for funding to support their direct-to-consumer activities, and therefore either needed to be SNAP or WIC authorized, but most aren't. And so I connected with Penelope's BFP like ag event conference that happened a couple months ago. They had an in-person SNAP sign-up event as part of an offering at that conference. And I was there and connected with the USDA representative who was offering these in-person SNAP sign-ups for farmers. And we ended up getting that USDA representative to come to our region and offer like a day's worth of in-person SNAP signups for farmers. And we got five different farms like signed up for SNAP in person,
Wow.
which was a very big barrier for them to do on their own.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a great story. Thanks for sharing that. That's a really good example of, you and your organization doing that work, identifying that need, and then like helping to address it. And, hopefully that helps them be able to apply for the CDA grant, but it also hopefully isn't a bad thing that there are more SNAP authorized farms, around there. So yeah, thanks for that. Any other, well, Anjali, do you want to clarify anything about that question or?
No, that was super helpful. It has my wheels turning about how, because, with Jeffco Food Policy Council, we obviously work with farmers and local businesses, but that's not necessarily like collecting those resources isn't necessarily like the primary focus. So it has my wheels turning about how can we be more strategic about putting things together in a way that would be helpful for different community groups in Jeffco.
Awesome. Any other questions? Big, specific, either, anything in between?
I think I have a repeat question, but I just got an application to review recently from a farmer that's working with retailers that may or may not be in an LL or LILA zone, but they receive SNAP and WIC, or they accept SNAP and WIC, and they can show that the within the radius of that location of the retailer, there are actual low income, low access zones. So it's kind of a question about how far do they need to go? For instance, I suggested that they go to the retailer, in addition to showing that within, a fairly small radius that there are LA zones, that they go to the retailer and ask about the amount of SNAP and WIC purchases. What's interesting about that, how that was received, was that the farmer was reluctant to go and ask for more information from the retailers because of just the burden that it has. Although I would have thought that would have been a less burdensome request, because that's information they have to have anyhow, and gather.
Well, so let me ask you this, Eileen. Did that farmer already get a letter of support from the retailer?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. I mean, my thought was, if that retailer could include, maybe it's hard data, maybe it's anecdotal data, but some mention of, what percentage of their sales are to SNAP and WIC customers, and then, even better would be if that retailer could say, this farmer's product is very well received by this population. I draw that connection. I see this as a barrier. And if this farmer were able to produce more and then give me a better rate, I could sell more product to this population. You know, that's what the reviewers are going to be looking for, that connection there. So I do hear though that, you know, it is a lot to ask for a retailer who, you know, it maybe isn't seeing a direct benefit from it. But yeah, whatever they can get to make that case. And I think, yeah, as much conversation as they can have with that retailer, because that's really what's going to be assessed, is how is that retailer able to reach the low income, low access populations. So
Yeah.
yeah.
That letter of commit or support feels as if it's a heavy lift.
Yeah.
For both, to tell you the truth.
Mhm. Yeah, that was why we didn't do it for round one. We were like, this is going to be too much of a heavy lift. But then we realized with the response from round one that we needed something. So yeah, I apologize that that's a heavy lift, but I think that's the way to really, you know, hammer home that connection. So Lauren.
Yeah, I just wanted to jump in and share our experience with that. And if it is one of those farmers that is definitely on like the higher need scale and is the perfect fit for this type of grant and funding, I'll just like type up a letter of support using ChatGPT and ask the farmer to like go to the store and just ask for a signature to save them that lift.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully everything's accurate and true, but right, like we can use the tools at our disposal to like save that headache of like crafting the language. You know, I'm not going to go tell all the reviewers that we're condoning ChatGPT writing the applications, but you know, I think use your discretion. You all are really intelligent, smart people, and you know how to help people. And I mean, getting business owners more familiar with how to use ChatGPT, that's TA. So
Eileen, it's such a good point. But it also reflects that if the letter of support is that difficult, I can't imagine the actual food to the retailer. Like that, because it is that's like a huge lift on retailers. When they have to call the farmer and schedule stuff, and so that's also been brought up in a lot of our discussions, is that relationship piece of pricing. What is it going to take to build that connection? Not just that high up connection for support. And so realistically, because just in my experience, it's been such a heavy lift that it's quickly dissolved. And that shows a great need for this technical assistance. Just because in my experience, then we start talking about health codes and inspections, who's cleaning and washing stuff. And so it gets into these deep conversations of responsibility and MOUs.
Thanks for that, Erica. Eileen, to clarify, is this an existing business relationship or a new one?
Yes, it is an existing relationship. So they have, sales measured for 2023, for instance. And that kind of dovetails in my second question, is to what kind of rigor does the applicant need to have to show the projection, the forecast increase in sales as a result of the grant?
I would say the best of their ability, you know. We don't want them breaking their backs to try to get, we want a directional figure. You know, we'll follow up and ask them how that directional figure played out in reality, you know, 6 months to a year after they spend the funds. We're not going to be digging into their sales data unless they want to offer that. But I would say, what's an easy way for them to project that and give us some directional sense? We are looking for a figure, like, please offer a dollar amount, but, you know, explain your logic there. We don't need extreme rigor, but I do understand it's not a straightforward question, but it's the one way we're getting, the reviewers are getting a sense of the scale of what's the return on this investment, right? So whatever they can offer, great. And they don't need to inflate the number. You know, return on investment isn't the only way these you know, applications are being scored, but what's their best guess at what this investment will do for their sales, for their ability to reach that population?
A little technical question to add.
Yeah.
If the information is better presented in terms of a table, and that can't be put into the Google form, are you advising people to just submit it by Word doc / PDF? Okay.
Here's what I'll say. What they will be scored on is their answers to the question, their budget, and then if they are applying as a small family farm, their letter of support. That's, you know, that must be answered. But many applicants submitted, you know, pictures, other charts and tables, you know, they're not required, but to the extent that it enhances the proposal, you know, these reviewers aren't going to go read something else instead of, like, the Google form answer shouldn't say see reference X, you know, but they can definitely include that if it just kind of buttons up neatly the point they're trying to make. Cool. Thanks for that. Okay, it's 11. We have this meeting until 11:30, but one thing I did want to say for newer folks, well, I'll just throw in a few reminders. For newer folks, these meetings are open to anybody and everybody who is working on this project. So don't feel like you have to, you know, be the only one attending here. It's great if you have subcontractors and folks on the ground doing the work. Yeah, attend these meetings. It's totally open and welcome to those folks as well. And then, yeah, just another reminder to, yeah, get in your invoices at whatever interval works for you. And, you know that there may be some back and forth. You know, we've got not the most easy to work with sort of payment process here at the state government. So, yeah, if you're looking for a check, you know, follow those instructions on the in the resources folder where we talk about invoicing. Adonai and I are happy to answer any questions, and yeah, submit those invoices so that we can pay you guys at whatever interval works for you. Once a month is great. Once every other month is great. Once a quarter works too. Whatever. I think we ask that with no greater frequency than like every 2 weeks. But yeah, let us know how we can support you guys and get this money over to you. Okay, yeah, brief interjection there for a few reminders, but happy to keep discussing this, answering questions. Erica asked a question yesterday. And I'm kind of curious to pitch it to the group. You know, how many of you have been working alongside awardees and supporting them? We had some confusion about, you know, one awardee not understanding that when his payment was coming. So if anyone has questions about supporting awardees, we can discuss those here too.
I still don't know who was awarded. Like, I thought that you
Yeah.
were telling us.
Well, yeah, a lot of folks have formed those relationships and the business owners have been going to the outreach and TA contractor talking about, their process. But Jay, if you want to set up a meeting and we can talk more about the landscape of who was awarded in your region, we can definitely do that.
Yeah, nobody, like one person let me know. I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's just like there's not been any.
Yeah.
Nobody's like followed up to me to tell me, hey, except for like one person. And I have no idea what happened to the applications along the way. And so that is another like really kind of frustrating thing that I don't know if we did a good job or not, because I sent an email asking people to let me know and they just didn't.
Yeah.
So that's been, a real mystery.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And again, you know, our compliance team asked us to not, you know, to respect the business's privacy with, you know, what, like who else is looped in on their business information, which, you know, we had the impression this could be a little bit more collaborative. I think, there was also maybe the impression that in some cases that trust building, that relationship forming really has meant that some business owners are asking their outreach and TA provider before they're asking CDA when they have a question, right? So, you know, they've really served as that liaison. And then there is the matter of when we can publicly announce all of these awardees, right? Because as we mentioned earlier, Governor Polis is really excited to kind of be the first to say, here's the impact of this program that I made possible. So there's sort of this political element too. So that's why we haven't been doing this deep dive. But Jay, happy to like set up a one-on-one and we can talk about, you know, kind of on a higher level, but just for your region, how things went. So yeah, don't hesitate to reach out and we can talk one-on-one. Lauren, go ahead.
Yeah, similar type of question. Curious if after round 2, if the CDA would be willing to share who received notices of intent to award. If using that different language would work with the compliance team a little bit better. And
Let
then
me
my
ask them.
second,
Yeah.
okay, great. Yeah, my second question is, I know that for round 1, like it was all new, the timeline from like when businesses would hear from the CDA if they like had basically the notice of intent to award and needed to submit the supporting documents all the way to when they would get the check in the mail or the funds wired into their bank account. Like that timeline wasn't known, but I'm wondering if now based on what's happened with round 1, if we could potentially get like an estimated timeline for round 2, just so as TA contractors, we know those, like that's the main question that I've gotten from awardees in round 1 is like when to expect the different parts of the contracting process.
Hello.
That'd be really helpful.
Hello.
Hey, Marion, are you there? Can you hear us? Lauren, I think what might be helpful is if we can right now just type out everything that needs to happen you know, on our end, and then put in sort of an estimated, some things are like, we're waiting on the business to get us back our, their verification documents. And then we're waiting on CDA to manage the volume of processing all of that. Then we're waiting on the businesses to tell us when a good time to meet is. And then we've met, and now we're waiting on the businesses to give the thumbs up. We're ready to go. We're ready to sign that final contract. Now we're waiting on CDA to send that over. That usually takes like 30 seconds, but waiting on the businesses to sign. And then once that's signed, then we initiate that like payment process, and that's when accounting comes in. So that's when things sort of go totally out of our hands as the program team and the business owner, right? Up until then, it really is just those two parties, and managing that volume on CDA's side, and then getting all of that documentation on the business owner's side. So yeah, we can write all the steps down, but do know that it's really just Adonai processing all of this paperwork. So unfortunately, it's sort of like there are going to be, between 65 and 85 awardees in round 2. And so as much as we want it to go quickly, it is just paper pushing at a certain point. So it is hard to give like some sort of timeline, but we can write down all the steps and sort of an estimate, but it's hard to make promises.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And I think even like a very rough estimate, even a very rough estimate would be helpful. So many of these projects involve getting contractors involved to lay foundations down, to build walk-in storage, like refrigerated storage. And so businesses really need to know like when to expect the money, and then they work backwards from there to know when they need to start planning and getting things into place. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah. There was something else I was going to say on that. I can't remember. Jay, go ahead.
Yeah. I'm curious if besides the tax credit, is CDA gonna offer, like, have other grants or stuff in the future? That we would be, continuing to do this sort of work with.
So CDA has a lot of grants. They're kind of all over the map in terms of what they're focusing on, right? Ag worker development. There's a whole range of, specialty crop block grant is one grant that's always existing, but will the Community Food Access Program have another grant? That we have no indication that will be the case. This pot of money, again, came from the COVID Relief Fund, and we've got this $10 million per year tax credit now. I'm not sure if or where the funds would come from to do another grant program again. So yeah, to answer your question, there are a lot of grants out of CDA. They don't necessarily have funding for outreach and TA in the same way that Community Food Access does. So yeah, unclear on that. What we do know is that Community Food Access has the tax credit, and we've applied for this funding to keep working with you all as partners to do outreach and TA for the tax credit for 3 years after. Well, yeah, I guess technically it was 3 years starting whenever we hear that. So if that's this month, it would be 3 months after that. So that's the irons we have in the fire. That's what we can, look towards in terms of like the work related to community food access for the next couple years. Deo, did you have a question?
No, I just want to mention the question you did before about the store that was asking me if they award something because they didn't hear back from your team.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, Deo, I think Erica and I were communicating about that, and we'll loop in Adonai too, about that specific business. But yeah, this is certainly things we want to know. If you all are hearing from businesses you work with that they're confused about what CDA has been telling them or where they stand with things, you know, yeah, please don't hesitate to reach out on their behalf so we can get to the bottom of it, because there's lots of times where we think we've been communicating clearly and it's been misinterpreted. So yeah, this is part of that TA work is yeah, helping things become clear for those business owners, especially the business owners that, you know, like Lucy brought up, maybe have a little bit of fear or trust issues with government. So
yes. Thank you.
Thanks, Dale. Excellent questions from everybody. We have about 15 minutes left. Anything else? Oh, Angeli.
Javier had a question in the chat. I can read it, Javier. Will Spanish applications be read and reviewed in Spanish or translated to English?
They'll be translated to English, and just because most reviewers are not bilingual, so they're translated to English and then reviewed. You know, most reviewers won't know if they were submitted in Spanish or English, and then all communications afterwards are in Spanish. Thanks for keeping an eye on the chat. Anything else? Okay. Well, we will get back on our regular schedule. I think it's the fourth Wednesday of the month at this time. And again, you know, we'll be structuring this similarly, where we'll have some updates. You know, we're thinking next month, Adonai will present on common mistakes that folks make when they're submitting their W-9, and how that can really delay the payment schedule when there's a lot of back and forth there. So we think that will be really helpful as you're providing TA to awardees. But yeah, this is a time when everybody's invited who's doing this work to ask any question about this work and future work, and yeah, build a collaborative space here. So really appreciate all of you and your questions and your answers, and yeah, the way you're tackling this work. So I'll stay on, but feel free to drop off if you'd like 15 minutes back in your day.
Thanks,
Bye,
Mickey and
Jay.
Adonai.
Bye, Lauren. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, Angeli.
Mickey, next meeting will be the March 27th or April 24th?
March 27th. Thanks for that
All right.
clarification. I'll send
Okay.
an email with a reminder too. But yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye, Gisela. Thank you.
Gracias, Gisela. Hasta luego.
Bye-bye.
I have what I think will be a fairly quick question. I'm
Okay.
assuming that administrative staff as well need to submit the time tracking.
Yes, let's payroll, submitting payroll is like the biggest mystery to me. Because I haven't been in like reviewing invoices. But
Sure.
let's pull this up. This is my little cheat sheet, and this is what we send to awardees. Let me pull it up, Penelope.
And I'm guessing if it's in the Google Drive, I'm fairly sure I know what you're pulling up, and we're following that. This was just my first time administrative staff have had to, accounts payable, accounts receivable, which we're not quite there yet, but it's still, I'm like, well, y'all can do it. We can figure this out. So we're just coming up with some kind of token things, and because when they're doing accounts payable and receivable, they're doing all of them, and that's just an example I'm using, but yeah.
So, okay, here's my cheat sheet, which I made for awardees, and I want to just like share with our outreach and TA. But yeah, for payroll, proof of purchase includes certified payroll printouts that detail the corresponding staff hours paid as relates to the project scope of work. So if your payroll system generates that, then you don't need to do really detailed timesheets. But if it doesn't, then yeah, timesheets are required. And then for project pay for existing staff, an invoice or timesheet detailing the hours worked on the project is required. And then this is more for like an awardee, but if you hired someone new to do this work, or you're expanding staff hours, like the proof would be the before and after. So send us the payroll report without that person, and then with that person, and job description accompanying it. But I don't think you guys aren't hiring a new staff person, right, Penelope? Yeah. So the question is like, what does your payroll software generate, and would that be enough?
Oh, sure. It's not. We don't have any payroll software.
Okay.
Of course we do. QuickBooks is who we pay through, but it's very rudimentary back end. We submit time tracking with kind of what category, which funding classes each that we're charging to. And so, it would look just like a spreadsheet that has columns that say, different acronyms for each of the work. And so in addition to that, we were doing that example that is for invoicing. So we're mimicking modeling based off of that. So
I think that's the best course of action.
I figured, I just wanted to double ask. So I'm good. Thank you so much. I appreciate this time.
Thank you, Penelope. And we'll be in touch and see if there's a way we can streamline it. Like if you submit your first invoice and we're like, great, this was a lot, but you could afford to pare down here to save you some time, we'll let you know. But I guess for this first one, better to have more than less.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Penelope. Talk to you later. Deo, hi.
Hi, I have an awardee that applied for a walking that is like $65,000 to $70,000.
Yeah.
Can he apply for the difference between the 50 and the?
Oh, I see. He got it in round one?
Yes.
Okay, and he's buying it and he wants to apply for the difference in round two. That's a good question, Deo. I think I need to ask. I don't know.
Yeah, you can respond later.
Okay.
Just I'm curious if he can apply for the difference in the second round.
Adonai, what are your thoughts? Because they would have to submit a receipt. They are going to be sort of tracked separately, right?
Mhm.
So, yeah. What do you think, Adonai? Tough.
Well, when he submitted that, the only request is like to have the difference to pay by himself, and he has
Right.
the money, but he needs more stuff. And I said, just apply for other thing, but I just want to make sure if he can apply for the
Yeah.
difference of the cost of the walk-in.
It would be simplest to apply for different stuff. If he does need other equipment or whatever he needs, that's eligible.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a little fine line because it will be a purchase that happened before the grant being awarded. Because it's even though he got it on the first round, on the second round he has to purchase the things after he was awarded. So
Even
that
if he
invoice is
waited
gonna
though,
be right.
I mean, I was thinking along those lines too, Adonai, because but technically he could wait, like he could give a status update and then wait to buy it until he had both checks.
Yeah.
But I don't think, I think there's an issue with he applied on the premise that, he was able to support the remainder, and it's a little bit like that outcome data would be tracked, if in his original application, he said, if I buy this refrigerator, I expect my sales to go up this much. So his second application would be that same refrigerator, it basically nullifies, if he doesn't get round 2, it would mean does he still get
Okay.
round 1?
Yeah.
So if there's a way he could apply for other things, I think that would be what we would recommend strongly.
Okay, thank you. And also, he has another store in one is in Longmont, the other is in Fort Collins.
Okay.
And he is asking if he can apply for the other one instead this one, but I get the answer that he can apply for both once he has a different tax ID.
Yes. If he has, a unique tax ID for Longmont and Fort Collins, then he can apply for 50 here and 50 here.
Okay, perfect.
So that's, as long as they're different businesses and it's not, under the same business ID.
Okay.
Marion.
I'm glad all these questions were asked and I stayed on.
Yeah.
Because I have, when you say, do you think it would be good? That's my question. If they apply for a certain amount of money and then they actually say that would lower my cost and increase my opportunity to reach more customers, is that a good sentence to put in for whatever budget you're asking for?
Yeah.
Specifically, if it improves your efficiency.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to encourage all my farmers to do that because I didn't think about that before. So,
yeah. Yeah.
The added thing that I'm going to lower my costs. So therefore I'm going to be able to do more.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
okay.
In the
Great.
legislation. We hope this grant leads to lower costs. So
yeah.
Thanks for that, Marion.
And also energy efficiencies, because that is mentioned in there.
Yeah.
All of the refrigeration people, the reason they wanted that is because number one, the equipment always breaks down and that's very expensive. And it increases their electricity costs.
Yes.
Which we know have skyrocketed. So
right. Yeah. Here in Boulder, Excel.
Oh my God.
I looked at my bill this winter and I was like, what are we doing wrong here?
No, I detect fraud there. I'm sorry.
It's crazy. They increased it by 3 times.
Yeah, because they're actually their cost for purchasing is less. That's why I'm saying that they're going to get, mark my words, they're going to get, done for that. But on a completely different matter, how was Japan? We want to
It
hear
was
that.
so much fun. I kind of couldn't believe that I was taking a vacation in the middle of all this,
No,
but
do not feel guilty.
yeah, you can't. I mean, it's like you'll live your whole life being like, oh, it's not a good time.
Yeah,
I won't go.
exactly.
So I went, and Ad and I took care of everything, and lo and behold, everything's just fine. And it was
I know.
so fun. I am encouraging everybody to go there. It was a very easy place to be a traveler. The food was amazing. Things were affordable besides the flight, and I had the best time. It was probably the best vacation I've ever taken. And we had some
Fantastic.
cherry blossom. It was February, and I was like, oh, this is before, you know how Japan's famous for the spring
Yep.
cherry blossom. So I'm like, okay, well, we won't see that. But there was some blooming. So
Well,
we got some of that.
that's probably not a good sign either,
I know.
Just,
It is.
just like we've had little flowers popping up in our gardens, and that is way too early.
You're
So-
right, Marian. I was like, this is nice for me and my February
Or all,
vacation, but
all a proof that there is such a thing as climate change.
yeah, it was, I think they had, so we went up to ski in the
Uh-huh.
North Island, where it's known for just being some of the best skiing in the world, but it was so warm there the week before we arrived that it was raining in the middle of the ski season, which is not good.
No.
So yeah, definitely warming climate.
Okay. But anyway, thank you for today. It was very informative. I appreciate it.
Good.
And
Yeah, well,
seriously, I did personally tell the governor and personally tell Kate that I needed to meet with them and tell
Nice.
them the outcome of this, because they needed to know how to support it further.
yeah.
And I mean it.
Mhm.
I'm definitely, I mean, Kate
Yeah.
definitely told me to email her.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
the governor said, well, give my card to my assistant. And I said, no, that doesn't work. Okay. Give me her email so I can email her.
Yeah. That's so funny. I
So it
mean,
was
I
great.
think we've got a lot of eyes on us looking at how this
Yep.
went. And I think you guys tracking your outcomes and really doing the good work here. I mean, both of you sitting down with people and being, I mean, you hear it in the responses, like, not to throw Jay under the bus, but she's like, oh, I have no idea who, no one's talked to me. And it's like, well, maybe there wasn't that level of detail of connection that you guys built, because they're coming to you first with Jacob Springs, Longmont Packing, a number of other businesses. They're coming to you first.
Oh, and wait till you hear my coup with Ibrahim.
Oh, Ibrahim is the
He's the
Jacob Springs?
Sudan from Sudan with the
Oh.
microgreens.
Oh.
And
Oh,
he's
Ibrahim, yes, at
yes.
yeah,
And he's
Simply
now
Fresh.
he's connected, whether he gets awarded or not, he's connected to the only Hispanic retailer in Broomfield.
Oh, wow.
Plus, we met with the economic vitality manager to talk about some indoor growing opportunities that Broomfield could then develop a food system based on indoor growing, because they have no land.
Right. Yeah. And
so
Ibrahim is growing those microgreens.
Yes, and he needs to
awesome.
move to a warehouse. He can no longer do it out of his house.
Yeah.
So that's how I got the and because of all the work I'm doing with the tribes, I got connected to the economic development team. We didn't really present to the exact right person because he's more of an accountant and in the box. But next we're going to present to his boss. So it's like, what I'm trying to tell you is it's spawning other conversations related to food system.
Yeah.
I
Bye,
have to
Dale.
leave.
Thank you.
Talk to you.
Anyway, I don't want to keep you guys,
Everybody.
but